Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me for this acrylic painting tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a simple seascape. We're going to focus on this beautiful sunset sky in this one and show you how to do some really easy clouds. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat for tonight's show, so if you've got questions, you can ask those and we'll try to answer. Let's get started. All right, so I'm using a 9 by 12 inch canvas tonight. I haven't prepped it with anything. I was trying to think of, undertones to use, and this one's got basically yellow and blue, and I didn't really want to take away from either of those colors. If you were going to tone it, I would probably use a very, very light yellow, and that way your sky wouldn't go too green in the blue areas. But I think I'm just going to start from scratch and we'll just work our way around it. I'm going to please subscribe if you haven't already. There you go. If you click the bell, you'll get an email whenever we go live. We do it every Tuesday. So hi to our audience. So glad to have you with us tonight. It was really exciting. We were back from vacation last week. It was our first week back in a little bit. And we've got a full week roster of videos this month that we'll be bringing. Yeah, exactly. So, and some Patreon content over on Vimeo and my website. If you want to see all of the videos that I've done, like all of them, are on my website. So if you go to thankfulart.com, you can see the ones that are Patreon videos as well as all of the free ones that I have on YouTube. And it also has links to Patreon for things like traceables and other things if you're interested in that. So be sure to check that out. The Thankful Art logo never showed up if you were trying to add it there.
It didn't?
Nope, did not.
Huh. Oh, that's because I was on the wrong. Right. Here, how about this one?
There we go. I figured they know how to.
It showed up on my side.
All one word, Thankful Art.
Okay.
All right, so we'll be using a 2-inch Aspen to do our background. So just a large flat brush. You can even use a foam brush for this if you want. They have those wide foam brushes that'll work fine for this. But if you've got a nice wide soft bristled brush, it'll make some nice blends for our sky, make it a little bit easier for us. And then as far as the clouds go, I'm probably going to use my Deerfoot and maybe my blender brushes for that. These are Princeton brushes, all of these. And then the blue handle is Select. These ones are VelvetTouch. And these ones here are Aspens. So Dakota and 6100. I've just got all of them, all the series. So Filberts or even like a bright or a flat will work for some of our sky. And for our surf, I'm gonna pull out the fan brush, I think, to stipple in. Possibly, we'll see. I'm just kind of pulling out. I haven't painted this ahead of time, so you'll see the whole process from start to finish tonight. And we're gonna try to get it done in 2 hours. So there you go. It's, yeah, let's go over our colors. It's always an adventure. We do them all live, so. And so Carbon Black, Burnt Umber, Burnt Sienna, India Yellow Hue, or Indian Yellow. They changed it to India Yellow recently, so you may see it as the other name. This one is Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue Green Shade, Unbleached Titanium, Titanium White, and Gloss Glazing Liquid. No, this one's Satin Glazing Liquid. Sorry, I changed it. It's a little less shiny. You probably could substitute one or the other of these blues. I probably could have done the whole thing with Ultramarine, just because there's not a lot of blue greens in here, but we'll have them both just in case. All right, not going to hurt anything. All right, so to start with, and you can do any colors you want for this. So if you want to add a little bit more punch to the sky and make it a little bit more colorful, like sunset colors, totally fine to do that. I have other tutorials that have kind of more bright skies. The only thing you need to watch out for is if you're mixing a color like yellow into blue. We don't want it to turn green, so we'll probably do our like upper part of the sky first, and then add our blue at the very end and try not to blend it down too much into our other colors. So let's start with our large brush. I've sprayed my canvas. That's really important. It opens up the pores of the canvas and allows it to blend a little bit easier. I'm going to take off a little bit of that moisture off the brush. I don't want it overly wet. And I'm going to add white to about half of the brush here. So the bottom half of the brush will be white. And for this one, I've kind of lowered the horizon. The original photo had a lot of beach. Oh, by the way, the original photo comes from a local friend of ours named Brandon Holt. Thank you to Brandon for the use of the photo. It's awesome. This is the third one I've done of his photos. He's not a professional, but I think he could be. He's amazing. He's got such an eye for a very gifted photographer.
Unlike some people I know.
Who shall not be named.
Not saying anything. Would you know anybody like that?
No comment.
No comment? Okay.
I'm not much better, so I can't say anything. I'm not great either, but
If you need pictures of stuff really zoomed in, I'm your guy.
yeah, with no context.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm the before example in all the photography classes.
Yeah. All right, so I've added a little bit of that yellow there. I'm going to get a little bit more of it. And cracking me up. Okay, so this is the color. This would be like if you wanted to cover the whole canvas with this, this would be the color. This is about the intensity you want. You don't want it too bright. Here. And I'm going to go a little bit more intense yellow right in here and kind of walk it up a little bit. Just kind of where I want my sunset. And I think, excuse me, burp from dinner.
You shouldn't have eaten that cookie so fast.
Yeah, exactly. I did. I wolfed down a cookie, just a Chick-fil-A cookie.
How did you eat it? What was your term?
I called it eat it like Mark. Kind of like peanut, like you stole it. Eat it like Mark.
Yes.
All right.
I do
Back to
fast.
painting.
Sorry.
All right, so I have added a little bit of magenta now, and I'm going to do this orangey color, and I'm doing this pretty quickly. I don't want any of this to dry on me. If it's starting to get sticky or just like not acting like it wants to blend or go on the canvas easily, just wait and do this. You can do this over the dry paint, so it doesn't have to be wet. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more intense pink. Might bump up the color just slightly from the reference. And you see there's a lot of gray on the horizon too, so I will be adding that gray in later when I add my clouds. But for now, I'm trying to kind of just do this sort of rounded area over my sunny bit. And I think that'll work. That'll just give us kind of a subtle color back there. All right, so I'm going to wipe most of that out. I can kind of quickly clean that out on my paper towel. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but I want to get most of that yellow out of it if there is any, because I don't want this next color to be green. I want it to be blue for the rest of our sky here. All right, get a little bit more white. Get my blue. And it is slightly grayed out, so I might just get some of this pink and work that in, which probably was already on my brush just a little bit. But we'll start with this kind of softer color here and put it up here. And I'm avoiding that deliberately right now. I'm just going to put it above it, and I'm going to wipe my brush off. That way, when I blend, I won't have too much of that blue in there, and it won't go everywhere. And I'm pressing down fairly hard here to get those two colors to kind of blend, because I don't have a ton of paint on my brush now. Okay, and you can see how that just softened off that line there. And I don't really mind any streaks, because I'm going to be putting clouds over most of this. So And I'm going to be adding some sunburst streaks out, but that looks pretty good. So we'll let that dry and then we'll add to it later. I'm going to darken up the sky obviously a little bit more. I probably could do that now. Let's go ahead and try to get it a little bit darker, and I'm just going to do it on half the brush. Get some ultramarine blue here and try to get some of that darker blue just at the top of the sky. Come on. Now, if you're starting to see anything where it's like picking up the color or just not blending it, I don't want to add a lot of water to this right now, because if I add too much water, it'll just wipe off what I've already got on here. So be careful of that. I added just a tiny touch because my brush was very dry from wiping it off on the paper towel. Okay. Okay, that's a little bit better. Just a little bit more intense blue there. So that looks good. It's very baby pink right now, but this will do for our undertone, and we'll add our grays on top of it and some deeper colors in our sky. But I think that'll give us a good head start. And then let's go ahead and use some of that yellow. We'll see if I can get a usable color here with that blue. I think I wiped most of that blue out, so I should be able to get a yellowish color that's not too green here. Yeah, that'll work. And I'm just going to do it in my water. So you can see how it kind of grayed it out, but that's okay. Our water is kind of more gray anyways, and we can add our brighter yellow highlights to it once this is dry. So I'm just going to go side to side here. And I didn't leave myself a whole lot of room for my C, but if you look at the picture, I mean, the C is really like, if you split this bottom third, the C is really almost half of it, and then the other half is beach. So there's not a ton of ocean there because of the angle, you know, of the camera. Let's get some blue here, and we'll just add some blue, sort of streaking it side to side. We're not trying to really do anything but put some color on the canvas right now, but this will just get us a head start for later. I don't even mind if I go over my horizon line just a little bit there. It's starting to dry though, so I don't want to touch that up too much. Okay, so that'll do, and then let's do our foreground here, which is fairly dark and pretty kind of purpley brown. So I'm going to get that magenta and some burnt umber and some ultramarine blue, and I'm just working it over the top of that color that I already had there. Okay, there we go. Nice dark purpley color. And we'll add some details to that surf here.
Man, we are
later.
done. Good job tonight, hon.
Boom.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, check out. No?
Not quite yet.
Oh.
Almost. We'll get there.
That's what it looks like when I'm done.
One of the things that you'll notice with acrylic painting, if you try it yourself, and I hope you do, is that it'll look worse before it looks better. So just kind of know that going in. Expect it to look like you don't know what you're doing yet. And when you get to about this point, it'll get worse before it gets better. Trust me. You're going to start to wonder if you're doing it right. But just kind of trust the process. I'll work through it. We got to work on these layers. We got to get all of these under layers done first, and then build up to the details on top. But if we go straight in with details, then our painting will be flat. We won't have a lot of depth to it and stuff. So having these under layers is important. I was waiting for your comment about underwears.
Underlayers are always important.
I knew it. As soon as I said it, I was like, he's
reaching for the mic. Hold on.
Cringe.
I'm working.
How cringe is this gonna be?
I'm working with a toddler here.
Oh, jeez. No comments about my co-host. That's all I'm saying. He's not going anywhere. So,
Well,
just
it's not as bad as I was in a meeting with work today, and we have these
cleaning
things
my hands here just as
called,
it's drying.
called product packages. Well, our French friends don't like to say that all out, so they just say the PPs. Like,
Are you serious? Oh no!
so
How does your team deal with that?
Oh, yeah.
Is there a lot of PP jokes?
I was like, we need to come up with a better name, and somebody said, yeah, but we're immature, so we like it. So yeah.
That's good. Oh my goodness. That's good. Okay. Oh my, that did not adhere, did it? I just noticed I had a spot there. Well, we'll just put a cloud there. I don't know what that was. There was something on my canvas there that didn't...
We can put a tree or a cloud there.
Well, yeah, we'll put something up there. It'll be fine.
Just keep rubbing on it, see if it makes it better.
Well, I want to get all of that, whatever gummy stuff was on there, off so that it doesn't, because it's just going to do it to any other layers that I put on top. Okay, I think this is still wet, so I'm going to have you dry this for me, hun. I was trying to delay, but I think it just needs a quick blowout. And we'll see if it looks any better when we come back. Probably not. So here, I'll show you while we're waiting. I'll show you our little pearl from our trip. So yeah, that was the most expensive pearl. Yeah, very expensive, but it was actually pretty cool. It was at Epcot, in the Japanese pavilion. They have that gift shop there, and it's where I got my little origami brush holder. We're really chopstick holder, but it's I'm using it for that. And my little kitty cat one too, but I'm not using that one tonight. But anyhow, they have these oysters in a tank. They're fresh oysters, and you get to kill them and take the pearls out of them. It's actually pretty brutal. When I thought about it later, I was like, this is kind of sad. But yeah, we get the pearls out of the live oysters right in front of you. You get to see her open it up, and they measure it out, and then you can buy a little charm or put it in a little bottle like I did mine. But it's kind of cool. I don't know. I have it sitting off to the side there, so it just made me think of it with tonight's video. I'm working on another seascape. It doesn't look like much right now. This is case in point for not looking like a whole lot, but we're going to be putting a coral reef and fish and all kinds of stuff on this. This is our first layer, and it will end up looking more like a combination of, these three images. When we get done with it, we'll be adding fish and all kinds of fun coral and stuff to it. That's our Thursday videos that we'll be doing all this month with my Patreon $15 tier. So they get kind of a special behind the scenes video. And we work on the same project all month long until we're done. I'll show you the other ones we've done in a similar series, since Mark's doing his deal and we're doing ocean tonight. Might as well talk about it. That's the octopuses that we did last fall, and then we did this one. I think this was last year as well. So the new one that we're working on will kind of be a combination of the both of these. It'll kind of have a little bit of the background stuff showing, but a lot of the coral and things like this one. So it'll be fun. I really enjoy those videos because we get to paint, for 6 to 8 hours or whatever, over the course of several weeks. We usually do an hour and a half to 2 hours a week until we're done with the project. So anywho, and then I'll have the traceable for this available for the $5 tier. We're going to be doing on Saturday, we're doing our final video in the series of beginner's acrylic series. We've done all kinds of stuff in there, so it's all of what you need to know if you're wanting to start out with painting a lot more in depth than I do in my tutorials, because in the tutorials I'm trying to, you know, work through it and get it done on a kind of a deadline, although I have hundreds and hundreds of videos that go over all the same stuff, but you kind of have to glean a little bit here and a little bit there, and this one has got it all kind of in one spot, so it's a little bit easier to digest. All right. Just wiping off any little fuzzies that I see. I think it did okay, besides that little bit up there. So let's go ahead and do another layer of that blue, a little bit darker blue up there. The nice thing about acrylics is that they're opaque, so we can just pretty much cover up any mistakes that we have or any problem areas. So I'm going to get a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of phthalo blue. Phthalo blue has a little bit more of a greenish undertone, a little bit more turquoisey blue. So, and the ultramarine blue is more purplish. So that the two of them together make a really nice, like, just flat neutral. This sky in particular in our picture does have a little bit more of a purple leaning, so I'm using more of the ultramarine. And again, kind of picking up a little bit of that purpley color. Okay, so that'll be good, I think. I added the white so that it would be more opaque, or yeah, the white helps it cover a little bit better. Got some fuzzies there. And I just kind of quickly swished the bottom corner of the brush to get off most of that paint, so that when I do this, it'll only deposit the paint at the top half of that brush. That's a really nice little trick if you want to do this ombre effect. Nah, there we go. We just covered up that boo-boo there pretty easily. Okay, so that looks good. I don't think I'm going to go any farther down than that. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so we need to darken up our sky here, and I just need to kind of pick a spot for our horizon line, and we'll just put some tape down. You want to have your horizon line on a seascape to be perfectly straight. So make sure you take time to tape it. I just find that's the easiest way of making sure that I get a perfectly straight line, and I want to go just above where that seascape starts. So right in there somewhere. I'm just going to tape that line down. I've got a T-square, so I know this is perfectly square. Hopefully, if I haven't gummed it up too much, my T-square does have a little bit of paint on it. It's been abused. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and tape that down to the table. Do not tape it to the bottom of your canvas. I've learned that the hard way, especially on these ones that have the paper. These are the Fredrix mixed media canvas board. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's paper on the back. It's got a nice solid core, so it's not going to warp, but it does tear if you put tape on it. Yeah. I'm like, oops, not good. All right, so I'm just going to pull the color off of that brush, since I still have some color in there from my sky. And I'm going to get a little bit of water and just set that brush over here on my thing and try to keep it wet so it doesn't dry out fully. And for this gray, I'm going to start with this blue. And I'm going to add this purple color that was our color down here in the sand. We'll see what color we get. If it's too purple, we can always add a little bit of yellow and purple being opposite, or we can just add brown, either one, or I have black here too in case we wanted to use it. Okay, that looks good. That's good. I really like creating my grays out of the colors that I'm already using. It just always seems to look a little bit better. So I'm just going to work this color, and you can see I wiped off most of it because there was a lot on that brush, and I don't need it to be super solid. Okay. I don't know why I'm whispering now. Shh. We're sneaking up on it.
You focus.
Okay, focus.
Yeah, so one of the drawbacks, well, there are many drawbacks, but the recent discovered drawback to Spencer not being here is he took the hairdryer with him.
What?
Yeah, so I had to make an emergency run to our bathroom.
Yeah.
So that's what took me so long.
Oh gosh. And my hairdryer is. Did you find it?
I found something that looked like a hairdryer
Okay.
and had to put it together like a
Yeah, exactly. It's like a Jenga puzzle.
origami puzzle.
Like an origami puzzle. Yeah. It's like a Dyson.
Yeah.
I find that I don't use my Dyson that much because it's such a pain in the butt to put together.
I bought it for you for Christmas a couple of years ago, right?
Yes.
And so I was like, oh man,
Occasionally
she'll really
do
like this.
use it, but
Yeah. It was on sale, and I was like, yeah, this would be nice.
not as much as I thought I would.
Wow. You got to have a degree to put this thing together.
Yeah, you kind of do. It's not as convenient as you would hope. All right, so getting some of the more orangey color, kind of just right around the sun here. I'm gonna add that in. I'm finding that this is drying pretty fast. That's why I added that glaze. If you saw me pick that up a minute ago while Mark was talking, I just added a little bit of glaze just to help that paint have a little bit more time to dry, or to not dry, I should say. It's got a little bit of an extender in it. So I'm going to go just above the horizon with that more kind of orangey color and just try to softly work that out. I'm kind of doing like the little semicircles here to... Okay, so that's nice. It looks like it's glowing a little bit, right? That's kind of the idea that we want. And I didn't blend this out, so it's dry now, but I can get some glaze. Maybe a little bit of my blue. We'll see. It's slightly damp. So you'll see what might happen is it might pick up the color if you rub in one area too long, or it starts to dry on you. So you just have to kind of be careful about that. And just let your layers dry. You can do this as many times as you want to. I would say go soft first, and then work up to more bold application of paint. So the first layer, maybe go a little bit easy on it, let it dry, and then as you, whoops, got a little bit more of that blue than I intended. I kind of scooped up some blue on there when I turned my back. Jumped on my brush. All right, so you can see these other layers here. I'm just wanting to slightly tap here. They're really wanting to kind of lift on me right now. I'm not really sure why. I think maybe getting a little bit of that glaze will help. Okay. Wiping that off. And then just using that soft, damp brush, almost like a mop brush. Just soft, mostly dry brush. And just kind of push that paint around a little bit to soften off that top edge. You can even use your finger if you need to. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then there's a big bold gray cloud over the middle here. I'm going to get a smaller brush for that. So I don't want to do it with this brush. But I do want to finish the under colors first. So I want to do another layer of this yellow to brighten up my sun. So I'm going to get some yellow and white, and then I'm going to wipe my brush out and get just white. Oh, I picked up some of that burnt sienna that was sitting there. Just white. And a little bit of that yellow that I just mixed. So right in the brightest part, right in here, we're going to have some white kind of coming out. And this is where you want those to be really soft, so don't, make sure you blend those out really good. When you finish your painting, you don't want to have like really obvious streaks there. You want them to kind of blend out. So pick a spot for the center of your sun and then have all of these kind of going out from that spot, radiating out.
That's the big yellow one, right?
The big yellow one. The big yellow one is the sun. There we go. Little Brian Regan humor there for you if you don't know. Look it up. You're welcome. Saw our favorite Nate Bargatze was on the Super Bowl commercial the other night. Of course, I was in the other room. I missed it.
It was okay.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Not his normal. Funny.
Overall, I think all of the commercials were just okay.
Yeah, they weren't great. The game itself wasn't great either.
Some were disturbing.
Yeah, some were very disturbing. I'm sorry.
Let's not talk about them. They're
No.
just too disturbing.
I won't. Yeah. That seal one might give me nightmares for a while. All right, so getting some of the a little bit brighter yellow, and I'm going to go above what I just did. Again, very little paint on my brush here, so I don't want to have any kind of noticeable start and stop to this. So I want to go back and forth, kind of over the top of where I want. So I'm kind of working my brush in a radius this way, but I'm kind of streaking it in towards that spot that I had mentioned earlier. Okay, and again, make sure that this stuff out here is dry enough that it can handle this kind of scrubbing, because if it's not dry, it'll scrub off your paint when you do this step. Okay, so now I'm going to get my magenta and my yellow, mix it into my yellow. I don't want this to be this bright, so I'm going to get some glaze, and we'll see if I can glaze it on. Glaze is just a very thin layer of paint. Nope, too dark. Too dark. So I'm going to have to add white to it. There we go. This may not, I don't know. I don't know of another better way of doing this. This may not be the best technique for a beginner. So if you're brand new to painting, this one may be a little bit tricky, because this blending into this soft blue and leaving it like this is going to be kind of a pain. Honestly, it's not the easiest technique. I'm finding it challenging, and I've been painting for a while, so just kind of know that. Not to scare you off or anything, but it is a little bit tricky here. Getting a little bit more of that pink so that it'll blend in with that sky a little bit better. The idea is to kind of have it be pretty close to our background color so that all of this is going on, but not having a noticeable start and stop place. And one of the helpful things is to have that value the same. So my pink is the same value as my sun color, that yellow, and by value I just mean darkness of the color. So we're sticking with, colors in this range of values. Our lightest value here is almost white, and then these ones out, the pink and the yellow are both this, and that way they're blending, even though they're not the same color. We can have them side by side, and they won't look like they're streaking, if that makes sense, because they're the same value of color. All right, so getting a little bit more just white, and gonna kind of pull out into that again with just the white. Okay, I think that'll work. And And I do want to blend this a little bit. It's not blended right now, so let's try to use our brush here that had the blue in it, and just go over that just a little bit right there. I have these little bits that are sticking out. So I'm going to bring that blue down over the top of that just a little bit right there. Again, make sure that that is dry before I do this step. Okay. Again, not sure. This sky looks easy, and sometimes the simplest skies are the hardest, and this one is definitely a challenging one. It's more challenging than you would think by looking at the picture, just because it's such a soft blend from this bright yellow all the way out, and there's no clouds in that whole area to help you. So one way to cheat is if you have a blob or an area where it's just like tricking you or like tripping you up, you can put a cloud there, and that way it'll, you know, hide a multitude of sins. So, and I am going to add some clouds on this side just to balance out so all the clouds aren't just on this side, because right now it's kind of weighted this way, so I just want like maybe one or two up here to kind of help balance it out. All right, so that's good-ish. I don't know that I'm gonna mess with it anymore. It's scaring me. I'm gonna just leave it alone. Okay. And then we want our clouds right across there. Get a little bit more water in that brush. I didn't mention this, but when you do use this brush, you want to keep it dry. It will get kind of soggy if you don't. All right, so I want to put some clouds going from this gray all the way over across. So I'm going to get some of that ultramarine blue and some of that magenta and burnt umber. Go a little bit more blue with this.
Now, did you put the tape on there straight?
I think so.
Because the earth is flat and you just wanted to make sure it was a straight line?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure why it was perfectly straight there.
Yeah, because otherwise the water would just puddle off the
Or
edge
just
of it.
roll off.
Roll off, yeah. Oh, jeez. Don't leave me a comment about that, please. All right, so starting here, that's really pretty. I got a little bit more blue in here. And I can add, there is kind of some orangey like tones underneath some of these clouds, so I tried to kind of get that in there already. If I didn't get it all enough, I'm probably going to add it around the outside of these clouds a little bit, but I'm just going to kind of scribble it on. Really pretty. Something like that, and then it just kind of trails off this way. I'm just kind of using that corner of the brush to dab in, and then once I get that color on and I've kind of scrubbed out the outer edges so they're soft, I'm gonna kind of come into the middle area and go a little bit deeper with my coverage of paint there. Even a little bit of breaks in there in the middle. That's pretty close. I'm gonna call that a win. And then let's use, I'm just gonna move on here because otherwise I'm gonna spend all night on these little clouds. right by the sun. So I'm going to add my gray up here. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of gray over here. Maybe there's a little cloud. Now the clouds at the top are going to be bigger than the clouds at the bottom. So as you approach the horizon line, those clouds are going to get smaller. And then as you go up in your sky, those clouds will be larger because they're closer to you overhead. Makes sense? Let's get some yellow and my magenta. And I'm going to use a little bit of that. There's actually kind of like a shadow there. That color is too brown. Whoops, 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 whoops. Oh, man.
That was an amateur move right there.
Wipe that off.
At least you're showing them what not to do.
Yeah.
That was planned.
No, it wasn't.
Oh. You're supposed to say it was planned. We rehearsed that.
Got so much lint tonight. I don't know what's causing all this lint everywhere. I just wiped that off. Okay, so getting some more of the yellow. There we go. That's better. A little bit more of yellow. I should have waited for that gray to dry a little bit better. I lifted off that gray. Okay. We're just going to leave those alone. They don't want to be messed with right now.
Yeah, I heard somebody on YouTube that said that once it starts drying, you need to leave it alone.
Yes, I have said that many a times, and then I don't do what I say I'm going to do.
But you just want to touch it.
Well, yeah. It's just when you're working on on an area, you want it to dry. You want to add all the layers instead of just letting them dry in between. You got to let them dry. Otherwise, they will lift and cause all kinds of problems for you. That paint is very soupy to be trying to scrape off. Okay. So getting the white here. I'm going to get some of this unbleached titanium too. And a little bit of the yellow. And then I'm going to use my palette knife and create some of that gray over here. So I'm going to do some of the magenta and burnt umber and ultramarine blue. It's very purple. I'm going to add a little bit more of the burnt umber. Maybe a little bit more of the ultramarine blue. There we go. I want it to be sort of a blue-gray with a slight purple leaning. This is very purple, but that's okay. I can work with it. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit of that unbleached titanium, mix that in with this purple and some of the yellow. That will gray it out even more. Okay, so I'll use that in my cloud up there. And again, using all the same colors that we've used already in our sky will help. So I'm just going to wipe that off. So I have that brighter yellow there if I need it. I'm going to spray it though so it doesn't dry. It's already trying to dry on me. Wipe out most of that paint on my brush. I don't want a ton of paint on here. And if you've got an extra one of these brushes, you might want to switch to it because mine is wet right now, so it's gonna kind of go on a little bit sloppier than be a little bit harder to manage, which I do have other brushes, but I don't want to clean out another brush, so I'll use it unless if it starts to cause problems, I can switch over. But so far it's okay. Okay, so there we go. That's a nice color. I like that. That looks good. So this gray, which was the color we were using down here, believe it or not, it's the same color. Put it on a little heavier down there. It is not wanting to stick right there. It is so weird. I don't know what's going on with that canvas tonight. Feels like there's spots in it that maybe the sizing wasn't quite great. If you've got a canvas that is doing that, you can try gessoing it. I don't normally have to gesso these, but this one tonight I might have gotten a dud because it is definitely fighting me. Alright, so I've used this and I've just gotten some white here. I'm just going to have some white clouds kind of peeking down from the sky here. We can cover that little boo-boo that we had earlier if it's still peeking through. And then tap in on the sunny side. So all the sides that are facing our clouds, that's how we can know where to put our highlights. So our sun is here. So these clouds are going to have the light on these surfaces facing it. And then this one will have it on this side. So below and to this side of the cloud. Like that. Okay. This one's going to come across. There's a big fluffy one right here. We'll add some of this gray to it too. With clouds, I say go light at first and then, build up your textures. So, because they can get overwhelmed pretty quickly.
Yeah, clouds are kind of interesting because you could either be dark on the back and light in the front, or vice versa.
Right.
Because of the sun angles.
Yeah, it's all about where the sun is with clouds. So this one's really easy because we can see the sun in ours. Sometimes you have pictures that, midday and they're not as well, or, not as easy to tell. Sometimes the sun hits them in weird spots. Because of the way the clouds are overlapping or whatever. Some clouds can even throw shadows on other clouds, like this cloud back here doesn't have much sunlight on it because this cloud in front is obviously in front of it and blocking the light. Okay, and then I'll go a little bit darker with this part of the cloud here. And right up here there's a really dark spot in it.
Move that towel.
Do what?
Can you move that towel?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna switch to this brush here and get some of this yellow, the blender. Dab in some yellow. And the blender will go on a little bit less floofy, so it's a good brush to use to kind of do some of the blending between the two layers. So like if you've got, real obvious textured area, you can kind of soften it off with this brush. Get some of that, maybe get a little bit of the burnt sienna. See some like reddish tones in there. Some of that purple. Don't be afraid of, having some drama there. That's what makes this look so interesting. It's all this contrast. So the main thing with the contrast is just making sure that you've got good transitions. You can go as dark as you want as long as that dark blends into your lighter areas. So we'll get kind of a mid-tone color and just go attack that edge and blend it in so that it blends into our lighter areas. And then we can have that really dark area there that looks like now it's part of our cloud, and it doesn't look like it's, just a dot blobbed on there. All right, getting some of our yellow and mixing it with this kind of mid-tone color that we had for our cloud here. I'm just going to add some of this color to help transition again over the top of that dark. Get some white. These are kind of more together in that picture. Almost looks like a cat like reaching forward here. I kind of separated out those two. I'm just realizing. But doesn't it in the picture? It looks like a cat or something. Yeah, I just realized that this little face of it is a little closer in the picture, but that's okay. It's a cloud. It can be whatever shape we want.
Exactly.
I want to do a little bit more at an angle. And you can always come back in with your blue too. So if you just, if you get in here and you've just added way too much and you're like, this doesn't look good, you can always come back in with your blue sky color and blend out some. I don't have my Zinc White here. I usually use Zinc White in clouds too, so I'll pull out my Zinc White. I think it's on the list. I just forgot to put it out in my palette. What Zinc White does is it's transparent white, so it helps you when you're transitioning between the blue and your. I'll put out the fluid Zinc White. I've got a handy here. There's also mixing white. Mixing white is Zinc White and Titanium White together. It's 50-50, so it can also be used for this. Titanium White works as well. I mean, I've been using the Titanium White for this, but you can see it'll be a softer transition. So like up here where I've got all of these wispy clouds, if I use this Zinc White, I can get these really wispy things happening that are a little bit harder to get with the Titanium White. So you can see, the transition there. So with the Zinc White, it's just that much softer than the Titanium White since it's transparent. So it's letting that blue seep through, and it's just softening everything off really nicely. So we'll just kind of hit some of these areas that feel a little harsh. Can always add Titanium White to it if we want a little bit more coverage, but maybe some of this cloud is bleeding out here. And then I'm going to get that titanium white just kind of on the corner of the brush and maybe a tiny bit of the magenta and yellow. So I got like an orange. This orange will actually look bright against that blue because it's opposite on the color wheel. So I'm gonna put it there and use it as my kind of brightest spots. Kind of on the bottom of my clouds there. Not sure I love that one. I think I made it too big, but that's all right. I'm making this one a little bit more purple than it is in the picture. It's a little bit more like almost green in the picture, but I want to use these purple tones in it, so kind of taking some artistic liberties with the colors. Okay, so I think that's gonna be a good start for our clouds. Kind of going inside. So once you get your wispy edges, I'm not going over those. I'm staying inside that little pocket of that cloud. That way I don't have to reblend out our edge. Okay. I think I'm gonna pull some like long ones here and use some of this and just do a few kind of in the middle here. There's some few little clouds. And then I'm gonna do just a couple over here. Lean off. Okay, so just kind of enclosing that a little bit more, and I'm going to use some darker color in the back area of that cloud back there. And again, kind of that transition color between the darkest area and my lighter area. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. It's nice. I mean, I could work on the clouds a little bit more, but I think I'm gonna call it good for now because we've been working on for an hour. We need to get our C done. So while I still have that purple, I'm gonna go ahead and use it in my beach, and I'm gonna put it right up against my surf here. This is that purpley gray color. Just put it right up against that surf. I'm going to get a little bit of glaze because I added so much water to this. I don't want it to wipe off if I scrub over it later. All right, so that's good. And I'm just going to kind of blend that out by pulling it down through that wet paint. And it should be close to the color I put on already, so it shouldn't be too difficult to blend it out. I'm gonna put a couple streaks here for some surf lines, and then get that kind of next color here, that color that I was using up there. And this is why I use the same color, because I wanted to use the color that are in the beach that'll mimic the sky and make it more of a cohesive painting. And I'm just going to kind of dry brush this, so I'm just going to skim this color over. You can see how it's skipping on the canvas. That'll kind of add to that beachy texture that I want down here. So almost laying the brush flat and just scraping it across the canvas there. All right, that's good. And then let's use the white, and I'll clean out this brush a little bit. Now I've already got a pretty good color for my surf. This color is pretty close to what I want it to be. I think I want a little bit more yellow to match my sky, though. So I'm going to get a little bit more yellow and tiny bit of my magenta. I want to start with my yellow, though. Yellow and white, and kind of find where that sunset is and use that as my color here. I'm going to use a little bit of it in this area too. It's kind of like going over the clouds there. I'm just kind of fuzzing out the bottom edge of that. Okay, and then get some of that magenta, add some of that, kind of in the same areas where we had that orange from before. I want to kind of add those together a little bit more. But just look at where it's in the sky and try to kind of mimic that in your sea. And I'm just going side to side with this. We'll be adding our blue over the top, but that's good. A little bit more intense color right in here. And I think we're good. Okay, now we want to, this yellow is everywhere, so we've already kind of got the yellow in other places. We can add this peachy color, just blend it out a little bit. And then I need to tape the opposite way to do my surf. So I need to make sure my sky is dry, though it's not right there. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit more. I'll work on this bottom area and then we'll go back up to it. So we need to figure out where that surf line is and put that in. So I'm going to get my blue and some of that gray, that dark gray, and I think I'm going to actually switch to a different brush. I'm going to get the Filbert here. This is the 4 Filbert. So get the Ultramarine Blue and some of my purpley gray color, which had the Ultramarine Blue and burnt umber mixture in it. I might even add just a tiny bit of black because I want this to be pretty dark. Okay. I'm going to add the glaze because it's so soupy. And pretty close here, I'm going to do a diagonal line that just kind of does that, like that. So start pretty close to this line and stay fairly close to that line. And then bring it down a little bit doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. I really don't want it to be perfectly straight. So that'll be our surf line there. So we've got that, and then we've got our kind of other surf line down here, the dried beach sand kind of line. There's kind of a dark edge there of that wet sand. And I'm going to wipe that out, and then I'm going to kind of come up underneath that and just sort of go side to side and just, in that wet paint, just kind of smudge it and pull it down a little bit. Leave a little bit of a reflection. And if your paint's dry, you can get a little bit more of this color on your brush to do this. Okay, looks good. Get a little bit darker. And just come back in here and just a little bit darker in a couple places. Wipe that out. Anytime that you feel like you've got too much paint on there, or, you know, you want to blend, wipe it out first. So I'm just going to kind of continue to smudge this. It's okay if there's a little texture. There's some kind of texture in the picture. All right, that looks good. Now let's figure out where our big rolling waves are going to be. Put those in. So I'm going to get some more of the Ultramarine Blue and just a tiny bit of black. Maybe a little bit of the Phthalo blue, but it's pretty ultramarine-y. So that line is, if you, I'm trying to see, it starts about halfway here. So it starts about here, halfway to the surf line. This is our surf line. And then on this side, it stays pretty high. So our surf line is lower on this side. So it goes kind of the opposite of that line. So that line we did this line we're going to do kind of like that. So it's going to end up here. And there's actually 3 waves that are happening here, but they're all pretty close together right there. And then here there's only one big wave that's coming across. So I'm going to start with that. I'm just going to kind of sketch it on with this brush pretty lightly. Big rolling wave there. Dips back down. Comes back up. And then there's a highlight on it. And there's a darker wave behind. So this is behind. It's a bigger wave. There. And this is going to be that middle one. Right there. And then this one kind of dips down and then continues up here. I'm seeing a nice dark area right up under here. They kind of don't quite touch, you know, they kind of, it's sort of implied. The highlights are happening in between where they're kind of cresting up. Here, the light's catching them. Okay, so that's good. As they get farther away, I did a tutorial on this very thing last year, almost exactly this time last year. So I would say check that one out because it was a lot easier, and it talks about perspective and how the waves will get smaller as they go farther away. So when we're approaching this horizon line, these waves are very small and they're practically non-existent, you know, in our eye. They're just the tiniest little wisps. I'm going right up to that sun, that sky too, just to help blend it in. Dabbing. And then back here, I'm going to probably put some blue colors and things. So this is just where I want those darkest shadows to be. And then I'm just going to dry brush from here on out and just kind of sweep to soften off those colors. Add a few more dark bits here and there, but just that kind of rolling wave shape. This one's a little bit bigger than I made it. Being a little conservative with it. Okay. Nice. These ones are pretty big too here. All right, there we go. Starting to look like an ocean, right? It's getting there. We're sneaking up on it. This is one that's going to look pretty bad until we get to the very last couple steps. It's crazy, but this is sort of how it comes together with ocean stuff. Feels like sometimes, not always, but this one definitely. All right, so I'm getting that ultramarine blue, and I'm going to put that in the surf right here. And I think I added a little bit of white to it. Yeah, looks like I did. I'm just going to brush that on and kind of feather out the back end of it as it goes up. So I don't want it to have a hard line there as it's coming up. It's pretty bright blue there, right on the edge of that wave. Okay, and then I can use this blue in other places. I want to leave this whole area pretty yellow, and I kind of probably could have put this wave should have been farther back. Now that I'm seeing it, it should have been higher. So it should be up here, so that I have more room for. It's really high actually. And I have more yellow space in there. Let me get some more of this yellow. I'm going to have to cover some of what I've already done. Get that yellow. But that's okay. It's kind of softening off the hard edges of that blue too, so it's nice. And the yellow's kind of stuck in right in this middle area mostly. There is some kind of as it goes out, but then there's more of the blue over here. So get some of that ultramarine blue, add it to my waves. Kind of right at the top of them where that water is, the white water is cresting over some of them. Some of it you can see the surf. And cover more of that yellow over there. And just add that blue all the way up again, kind of try to preserve this general area for some of that yellow to peek through. What were you going to say?
Oh, we got a comment and a question.
Okay.
Comment is, seems like you like to do beach paintings in February.
Yeah.
Do you miss the summer?
I don't. And I'm not really a beach person anyway. It's been a long time since I've been to a beach. I grew up going to the beach though, so I think it's a nostalgic subject for me, but I don't care for it as an adult too much. But I like painting them. They're fun.
And
It does feel like, warm. Yeah.
Yep. And the question is, if you were to do this on a larger canvas, what brushes would you suggest to use?
I would probably be using, so depending on how large, you just size up. So, probably, I might try this one. I don't know if I could get good, might have to switch to like a brush. I find that if the brush is soft, as it gets bigger, it gets more floppy. So you want a brush that you can push that paint around. So you might want to go for an Aspen and go for, like a number 12 or something like that to do what I'm doing here with this number. What is this for? That's probably the biggest one that I would go with to be able to control it. I used to do murals with the number 8, which was like this size, and that would work fine. So you could get a number 8 in the 6100 and do it on a larger canvas. It just take you a little bit longer, and be sure you're spraying your canvas a little bit more. So you're going to have to work to keep that paint fresh while you're working a larger surface. So make sure you're spraying. You can also spray the back of your canvas with water. That helps evaporate through the paint and helps give it a little bit more dry time while you're working too. So that's a good little tip. Spray both sides before you start, and then as you work, you can, if you're doing a large area, you can spray that paint to keep it wet while you're working. You don't want to add too much, obviously, but it works pretty well to spray it to keep it working. And you can pretty much do the same techniques and everything as long as you keep that paint, or, you may just have to do more layers and let it dry and then come back to it, multiple times. That's good too. The nice thing with the big canvas is that you've got more room to move around. You can just let parts of it dry while you're working on another area and then come back to things. So it's a little bit more forgiving in that way. So I'm coming back through with my dark now and adding more of my waves. And there's like a shadow of that wave there, and some of these waves too, you're seeing kind of a shadow below it. So it's not actually the wave that's making that color, it's the shadow of it underneath. That having these little tiny lines underneath it in the water. This one, there's a little bit of it right there. Just putting in my shadows here of my waves. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I like it. We're not going for putting in every little detail. You don't really have to do that. The waves are pretty forgiving. So I'm going to use this dark color and just go right up underneath my surf. Almost on top of that line of blue there. There we go. Nice. All right, and then I'm going to go back to my stippler. I think I'll get that 3/8 inch. I'm going to use this dark color, get a little bit of glaze, tap that out. I'm just going to tap it in my surf. It's not going to look good right now, so don't worry about it. I'm just trying to get some color down. Don't go too far up into your yellow. You want it to stay kind of right in here. And then I'm going to get my white and mix it with my Ultramarine Blue. And this time I want to go pretty light with it. And I'm going to now kind of define. I may let me get a smaller liner brush. I think I need to do this with a smaller brush. Here, we'll use this. I could use that brush, but I think this is going to give me a little bit more control here. So I've switched to a 2/0 round, and I'm going to go right above my dark line and put in some white surf line there. With this lighter blue. This is just ultramarine blue and white. Okay, skip it around too, so it's not like just a solid line across. Leave a little bit of dabbiness in between, looks better. And then we're going to start just a tap and swish. And just keep it low.
The old tap and swish.
Tap and swish, tap and swish. And get a little bit more of that blue. A couple colors, maybe get a little bit of that phthalo blue even. I might use this for some of the bigger areas and dab in some thicker bits, and then come back in with my smaller brush and do a little bit more controlled application. This kind of keeps it a little bit more random looking. Find that little brush, it can be easy to kind of make your marks look a little too predictable sometimes. So, right, I'm gonna dab in on the crest of my waves here with this a little bit, just a couple of spots. And kind of right up underneath. There's some brighter bits here and there, so get my bright white and come back in with that. And now that I've got some of the surf down, I can kind of come back in with that white and define just a little bit here and there. Doesn't take much. You don't want the white to overwhelm things. Yeah, we can kind of dry brush with this too in the surf. Use a little bit of it at the leading edge of this one. Just a little tiny gloss of color there. A little bit of this bright color here and there. Kind of in the area where my brightest sunlight is hitting. Really make it sparkle. You want to keep these waves fairly horizontal. You can see that there's some roundedness, but where they flatten out, they kind of flatten out straight. So that'll help. You don't want it to flatten out on an angle, if that makes sense. So if you've got your, let me draw it out on paper so you can see what I'm talking about. But as we're doing these final little marks here, on our waves. We can do, you know, all this round stuff as long as we're ending kind of on these flat angles and we're doing, you know, all these overlapping waves, but they're all kind of ending on these horizontal lines. If we're ending our waves like this, it's going to start looking really weird, right? It's not going to, if I do all this and try to do a wave and not flatten it out, it's going to look like mountains or something. So just keep an eye on that. If your wave is starting to look kind of funky, you may not be flattening out that line enough. So just keep an eye on that transition there. This one's not, you know, this one also, you know, kind of needs to flatten out, but they're all sort of overlapping in a very flat. There is some curvature, but it's not, you know, it's not like that. Unless there's exceptions, obviously, you know, they have those barrel waves that do that and they have the crashing things, but the ends are going to curve out. Even if there is like a, you know, sharp curve in the wave itself, it's still going to flatten out at the end on both sides. Okay? Things to watch out for. Okay, you know, I could do more with this, but I think I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna quit there, I think. I think maybe the only other thing might be to add a little bit more of the bright blue right at the bottom there. So I might get some of that ultramarine blue. And what you can do is just use the ultramarine blue. It's pretty transparent. You can grab some glaze or water and just put it over parts of your surf. Oh, I can use it in any parts of my waves too, if I want to add some more blue to my waves. And it's nice. Pull that color from the sky down into our seascape below. The sky will influence the colors of your water, so make sure you're using the same colors. I've seen people do that before where they'll, you know, they change the color of the sky and then they don't reflect it in the water and it looks off. So you always want to have the same colors in your sky as your water, maybe a little bit darker in the water, but still you don't want to have, you know, blue water and a pink sky. Just not going to happen. Your pink would be in your water, you know, color at the bottom. So anything that's happening in the sky is going to be happening in your water, color wise. All right, that's better. A little bit more blue there. I like that. You know, if you want to do a little bit more with the surf, you can add those footsteps that are in the picture. I took. There's still some in the sand. What did I say?
Surf.
I said in the picture, I thought.
You said in the surf.
In the surf? Oh.
Mm-hmm. But that's okay.
No, I didn't mean that.
What I'm envisioning is a ship, like a old sailing ship, coming in just laden with treasure.
To Oak Island?
Maybe, if that's what you think. I don't know. I mean, it's your prerogative.
Every time they find a nail or anything, it's like, could that be from a treasure chest? Or a chest that had clothes, you know? Could have been either or, but probably treasure, for sure. For sure that. Because the 99% of the chests in the world, you know, that were used probably had...
They wound up on Oak Island.
Regular things like clothes in them. But the ones at Oak Island all had treasure.
Exactly.
Every single one. And they all buried it and left it forever.
Yes.
And never came back for it.
Like 200 feet down.
Elaborately buried it down. Just so far down that nobody could ever get to it.
So far down.
So far down.
So far down.
I believe it. I am a believer. You never know. I'll, you know, if they're right, I will.
We'll see who has the last laugh. That's all I'm saying. Or we may never.
They're gonna. There've been a lot of men who have died not knowing. Not a lot of men who spent their entire lives digging that island up and never found anything. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We're talking about Oak Island. If I don't know if you got the reference. I don't think we said.
You said Oak Island.
Oh yeah, I said Oak Island. Yeah, that's right. Mark's favorite show on Tuesday nights. It's a good excuse to end on time.
It gives me hope.
It just allows him to gives you hope for what? They're not sharing it with you, honey.
Oh no, they won't.
All right, I'm going to darken up that little line right there because it's making the, see how there's a little bit of pink right there? It's just making the sky tilt down right there in that corner. So just going to get a little bit of my dark color and darken that up right there and just make sure I've got a little bit darker color along that horizon line. Okay, there we go. There's our little seascape for tonight.
So
Thank you to Brandon for sharing this photo.
At the beginning of the show, I would have put money on this that there would have been splatters. Are you telling me there's no splatters here?
I mean, we could do splatters. Yeah, we could do. Excuse me.
You don't have to get all choked up.
I
about
got choked up all of a sudden. I swallowed wrong. I'm gonna put a little bit of highlight on my sand right here. Just right where that sunlight is. A little bit. Yeah, let's splatter it. I'm all for splattering. You know me. Doesn't take much. Let me see if I can do it with this little brush. I don't know if I can. I'm going to use the Zinc White and my blue. And some glaze. I like to use Zinc White for splatters. It's already wet, more fluid too. You have to add water to it. added a little bit of glaze. We'll see. And the glaze just helps make your paint stick better, because when you add too much water to heavy body acrylics, they can not bind. I think I can tap off some color there. Okay. Nope, I need a fan brush.
You don't have to do splatters if it's too
No,
much.
yeah, no, it's fine. There's not a lot of splashy splash, but there might be a little bit. Just right there.
I wonder what yacht rock song would go with this one.
What?
I wonder what yacht rock song would go with this.
What was that movie we were watching? The Islands in the Stream. That was really funny with Will Ferrell.
And
Yeah, he's singing it with his daughter, and they're all like, very uncomfortable song to be singing. Yeah, it was really funny. What was it called? What was the movie called?
I have no idea. It was, the island was double booked. It had Reese Witherspoon.
And
I think she had her knife with her too, though.
and Leanne Morgan, who
Morgan, yeah.
I love. I don't know.
One of the
We
Jonas
never.
brothers.
We're the worst. We once. Yeah, we're the worst at coming up with movie names. You would think we'd never watched it.
We watched
because
it, I just don't.
I know, but we never remember the names of them. All right, I'm going to add just a little bit of that sunlight peeking through underneath my cloud here while he's looking up that name of that movie. I think it was on Amazon Prime.
You're cordially invited.
Ah, there we go.
You got 3 out of 5 stars.
It's fine. I thought it was funny.
It has
was
good funny
It
parts.
wasn't
Yeah.
like the best movie, but it was cute. It was a good, no stress movie.
If I read chat, Shrekless gave us the answer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So while you're doing this here,
I'm just adding a little bit of white peeking through here. Super chat. What?
super chat.
What?
Yes, for the new people, when we were
Hey.
mooing in chat, they're like, "Moo? What?" It's because we ring a cowbell. We used to do it in once
During
we
the
got
middle of
it,
the show, and it
announce
scare
it.
the bejeebers out of me.
Yeah, and it's disruptive for
Yeah.
because this show will be available for all eternity afterwards, and so if
Right.
you're not watching it live, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
You're painting along, and all of a sudden the cowbell goes
Yeah,
off. It's
exactly.
like, what?
We were getting some complaints.
Anyways,
It's fun for the live stream, though.
We got a donation from Angela,
Oh,
and
thank
says,
you.
"Thanks so much for the trip to the beach
Oh,
on the snowy day."
Wow, is it snowing there? Oh my goodness. Jeez. We got a snow earlier this year, but we haven't had any recently, so hopefully we're done for the year. I don't know, we'll see.
So thank you, Angela.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Angela.
it. That's
Yes,
awesome.
stay warm. Build a fire. Mark did a fire this weekend because it's been cold here. It's been cold, not rainy, cold and rainy,
Yeah.
not snowy. Yeah.
Yeah, the best rain, right? No, for me it's the worst when it's like 40 degrees and
And
it's raining.
it's just rainy. Yeah,
miserable to me.
I know. Okay, so just adding a little bit more of that light kind of peeking through those clouds, kind of popping some of that yellow in there in some places. And then we can also add it in our water and just brighten that back up because we kind of lost that in this middle area when I covered. I put this one too low. This one's actually kind of two in one, but it's fine. You get the idea. I think it looks good from a distance. I wouldn't like scrutinize it too close.
So for your seascape paintings, do you have one that sticks out in your mind that was the toughest to paint live?
The toughest to paint live. Well, I know I did that landscape, that lighthouse one, with the
oh yeah.
that lighthouse.
Stormy one?
No, not the stormy one. It was like a pink. It was on a long canvas. It was like a panoramic canvas, and I want to say I think I painted that like I feel like it was like a 4-hour canvas. I
The
don't know.
Sunrise Lighthouse Seascape.
Let me see. Yeah, how long was that one? Yeah, that one, I think.
That one.
Yeah, how long was that one? You have to go to YouTube to see.
4 hours and 44 minutes.
Yeah, I know.
Holy
It was
moly.
like, holy moly. Yeah, it took forever. That's
So-
the one that sticks out in my brain because I was just like, when is this going to stop? And that was a free one on YouTube, too.
So for a reminder, everybody, I went over to the thankfulart.com, our website, click the tutorials, and then you can search by keyword. And when I did Lighthouse, it pulled up the 5 lighthouse paintings that she had. So
Yeah.
if you're ever kind of looking and say, thanks to all the supporters that helped out entering all those keywords.
Yes,
In the
we
time,
had
it
a
was
whole, a lot of
fantastic
my,
group of people.
a lot of my Facebook, my Thursday patrons, they got together and tackled that. They each had like a bunch of, a whole block of paintings to go in and add those keywords to.
When I did a search for beach, holy moly, you got
There's a lot.
2, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 24, 28 paintings right now
Easily.
that reference have
Beach.
beach as a keyword.
And I'm sure there's more that for ocean.
So now we'll have one more for 25.
Yep. I like this one. I
Yeah.
think it's softer colors, a little bit more muted. I think I could have probably gone more yellow in the cloud. So if you get done with your painting and you're just like, I wish I had more yellow in that cloud, I'll show you how to do that pretty easy. You just take your glaze and get my yellow and start out pretty light. I don't have a lot on my brush here. I'm just going to brush over this cloud that I want to be more yellow. And you can see now it's starting to get more yellow, and I can keep doing this as many times as I want. As long as I keep this color kind of transparent, I can change the color. I could add more blue, I could add more pink. But I just want to make sure that that there's plenty of glaze in here, that I'm kind of putting these layers on nice and thin so I can still see all my detail underneath. And now
Good.
I've got a little bit more. I actually like that. It looks good. A little bit more yellow there in my cloud.
Got a question about paint.
Mm-hmm.
So we got somebody who's kind of starting out,
Okay.
wants to know if craft grade paints would work the same here, or do you recommend that they buy other paints?
I would buy the best paint that you can afford. So if you're at craft paint, I started out with that. It's some of the techniques are a little bit more challenging. Blending could be a little bit more challenging with it. But yeah, you can totally use craft paint.
Mm-hmm.
I do have, if you're part of that, my $5 tier on Patreon, I talk about the very first thing that I talked about in that acrylic basics beginners series thing. I can't remember what I named it. Basics of acrylic painting, I think it's called. I don't know. Anyhow, there's information about acrylics and versus craft paint in that tutorial. I also did a video here on YouTube about it. If you go into my beginner playlist on YouTube here, if you click on my name after the video here and go to my channel homepage, there is a playlist of beginner basics, and in there is a video, I think it's called Blending with Acrylics, and it talks about the different kinds of acrylics, and it shows you how to manipulate different kinds of acrylics for things like dry brushing and blending. So, and they do take different, little bit more finesse, between the different kinds. So, but you can use it. Yes. So long answer. Yes, you can.
Yes. And
Final answer. Yes.
And you just reminded me of something. If you go to find these videos on YouTube later,
Uh-huh.
on Angela's channel, you have to click the live tab, because that's
Right.
how YouTube now files them. So if you go and just
Yes.
look at videos, you may
Right.
not see very many, but you have to click on
Yeah.
the live because
Live.
we stream all these live, and so they
Yeah.
categorize them as that forever.
Yeah, and I don't love that because
No,
people
but-
are like, "Why don't you doing videos anymore?" I'm like, "I am." They're not showing up on my homepage on the first,
Under
especially on
videos
mobile.
where it makes sense.
Well, on mobile devices, if you go on the computer, it does because the computer does it differently, and I have control over what the computer shows. But on mobile devices, it's not. This, I'm adding some pink to my area down here. Why not? I'm just glazing away while we're talking, but
That's okay.
just adding little touches to it to help, bring up the detail. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty all right. I'm gonna sign it again. Thank you to Brandon for the use of his photo. I'm always like, he's kind of given me free range and just been like, yeah, if you see anything, paint it. Go ahead.
Carte blanche.
And then, yeah, carte blanche, that's it. And so I just was like, hey, I'm painting this.
I like that. I've given her that same freedom with the pictures I take. So far, she's selected none of the 7,000 I've taken, but that's okay.
I used some of your birds when I did the
Okay, all right, yeah.
birdhouse painting last year or the year before, whenever it was. I've used some.
No, I know.
Yeah. Here's Mark and I with a selfie at Epcot. He's got us like centered, and there's all this really interesting stuff off to the side. And so I'm just like taking his phone and going like this so that we have
So
the
let's
stuff in the
let's
background.
talk about the picture you took of me that I could send back to my parents when I moved out to Arizona.
Hey, now that's before digital. So
It
in my
counts.
defense, I thought I
still
took a
counts.
good picture until we got it developed, and I noticed that I got the flowers in the picture, but your head was cut off. So
Here
yeah.
I am in my new place, Mom and Dad.
literally Mark's body cut off at the top with the head gone, and
Yeah.
but there's really pretty flowers at
Nice
your
flowers.
feet. Yeah.
Perfect.
So you should have known it was
It was downhill from there.
right from the very beginning what you were in for. And I think are we painting flowers next week? I think we are. So yeah, I think we are, because we're doing teacup with some flowers in it, and then the final week we're doing the fox, I think, or maybe vice versa, but I think we're doing the flowers next week. So I don't have the schedule in front of me, but if you want to look, it's on all my socials and everything. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your week and stay warm. And we'll see you next time. Bye.